wish to turn now to divisional expenditure. Looking at the matter of divisional expenditure, the alarming trend continues at the THA. As you are aware, the THA, very much like the central government, is divided not into ministries, but into 9 divisions. In 2003, the divisional account of their spending differed from the Assembly's account by 3 million. That is, the Assembly said they spent either 3 million more or 3 million less than they actually spent. In 2004, actual expenditure for the 9 divisions exceeded the divisional financial statement by 14.6 million. That is, when the divisions presented their books, it was found that they actually overspent by $14 million more than they said they spent. In 2005, actual expenditure for the 9 divisions exceeded their own financial statements by 15.5 million. So there has been an exponential and explosive upward trend in divisional excess and failure to account for this 3-year period. I wish to turn to fixed assets. As you know, fixed assets are the ones that remain with you, your vehicle, your plant, your building, and the like. But even in this matter, there are alarming and continuing irregularities in the THA. In 2003, there are about $74 million in discrepancies in fixed assets accounting of the THA, resulting in the Auditor General being unable to verify the Assembly's claim that they had $394 million in fixed assets. Why was the Auditor General unable to verify this sum? Well, the THA omitted in their accounts $32.7 million that they said they had spent for school construction. They had understated by $2 million the price of a property that they bought for which they could produce no deed. There was a $3 million variance in the office equipment figure that the Assembly said it bought, as opposed to what the divisions said they bought. And all this was compounded by a failure to produce a fixed asset register. That is, the THA could not provide a list of the assets that they said they owned. So there was nothing that the sums could be benchmarked against. In 2004, this disturbing trend in fixed assets continued. There were about $10.5 million in discrepancies in the fixed assets accounting of the THA, resulting again in the Auditor General being unable to verify the Assembly's claim that it had $545 million in fixed assets. The Auditor General was unable to verify this amount because the purchase of lands by the THA had not been evidenced by deed. For some inexplicable reason, the THA had recited expenditure of $8 million as revenue of $8 million. And this again was compounded by a failure to produce a fixed asset register. In 2005, the situation repeated itself. There were $131 million in discrepancies in fixed assets accounting in the THA, resulting again in the Auditor General being unable to verify the Assembly's claim of $553 million in fixed assets. These discrepancies included, again, the purchase of land not evidenced by deed, the inexplicable omission of capital expenditure of over $105 million, the inability to verify expenditure of over $20 million, and once again, the failure to produce a fixed asset register. You will have noticed that I have confined the discussion so far for the period 2003 to 2005. And I've only highlighted some of the matters that these records disclose. I have not started at 2001 because I recognize that this administration came into office at 2001 so that the report of the Auditor General would have had nothing to do with them. And I have given them a 1-year honeymoon period, that would be 2002. So we've looked at 2003, 4, and 5. I wish that the national community recall that immediately after each national budget presentation for each of these years, the THA lamented the paucity of its allocation over all these years. Yet extracts from the THA financial statements reveal extensive unspent balances in almost every year. So in other words, notwithstanding THA complaints that it is not receiving enough funds, it retains as unspent balances, which are supposed to go to the contingency account, several $100 million each year. In 2003, the THA reported revenue of $774 million, expenditure of $680 million, and it recorded a balance of $94 million. In 2004, unspent balances were recorded at $125 million. In 2006, unspent balances recorded at $237 million. So one has to ask oneself two questions. One, why the persistent complaints about shortfalls in the allocation? And secondly, why are we not able to verify the unspent balances? In fact, between 2000 and 2012, the THA reported $18.6 billion in revenue, $16.7 billion in expenditure, and $1.9 billion in balances. The Auditor General's report reveals that every year there are extensive unauthorized incursions into this unspent balances account, and that its management is completely contrary to the operations of the THA Act and the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. In every year under review, the Auditor General states that she is unable to form an opinion as to whether the financial statements fairly present the state of affairs of the THA for the relevant period. What that means is that the Auditor General is unable to tell the public what is the true state of the use or misuse of public funds, and that her report is really her best guess based on the lack of materials presented. This, however, changed in 2006. Now, you might want to ask why we're dealing with 2006. The fact is that the 2006 report has only just been presented. The 2006 Auditor General's report is the shortest report to date, all of 3 pages. Considering that for fiscal 2006, the THA received revenue of $1.3 billion, the shortness of the report is in itself alarming. But what is a violent concern is that the auditor has indicated as a preliminary matter that she refuses to express an opinion on the financials submitted by the THA. She comments that she was wholly unable to find enough audit evidence to commence an audit. I want you to consider that for a moment, that the Auditor General did not have enough material to conduct an audit into the affairs of the THA for the year 2006. Because of the paucity of information supplied, or because of the failure of the THA to supply any sensible material on which the Auditor General could exercise her trade, the Auditor General was unable to verify sums in excess of $1 billion. And again, that is billion with a B. This means she cannot say at all how $1 billion was used in 2006. This is not to say that the THA received $1 billion in 2006, but it is to say that they had stewardship of these sums for which the Auditor General could make absolutely no comment. In 2015, ladies and gentlemen, there have been several calls to state agencies in Trinidad to account for monies spent. Surely there will be a call, a national call to the THA to account for these exorbitant sums. Because no matter where public funds are misspent, misappropriated, misdirected, or mismanaged, they remain public funds, and the public has a right to demand an account. Surely the national community will realize that the THA of 2015 is the same THA of 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, and that they remained in office from 2006 to present without interruption. I believe that past action is the best device to assess future behavior. And given the 7 to 8 year lag in reporting, the public does not really need to speculate about the current state of affairs of the THA finances. This situation, ladies and gentlemen, ought not to be allowed to continue. And today, the Tobago Forwards calls for one, an immediate forensic investigation into the accounts of the THA, leading to the criminal prosecution or otherwise sanctioning of elected or appointed office holders. This cannot be allowed to continue. We demand immediate institutional strengthening and capacity building for public officers with the responsibility for financial matters in the THA to ensure compliance with international accounting standards and the accounting rules and regulations of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2015, you cannot tell me that an arm of government doesn't know the difference between revenue and expenditure. That is completely preposterous. We demand an amendment to Section 52 of the THA Act to enable financial rules to be laid in Parliament, notwithstanding the lapse of time, because clearly this is a matter that is being exploited to the benefit of a select few. We demand as a priority matter the immediate resignation of Chief Secretary Orville London, under whose continued and uninterrupted stewardship this outrageous state of affairs was allowed not only to take place, but to flourish. Let me end by saying that with great authority comes great responsibility. The Tobago Forwards are advocates for responsible government and intend to be advocates for the jealous stewardship of public funds. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, we are grateful. Thank you.